Welcome to our coverage of the European Youth Ultimate Championships 2025, the European Federation broadcasting, folks. We've had some technical difficulties to overcome, but the athletes on the field today, it's all about overcoming this rather zesty breeze that we're being delighted to. Myself, Hannah Pendlebury, on the call alongside John Doherty. Doc, talk us through how you'd fare against these wind conditions, because we know you like a bit of breeze, don't you?
Yeah, this is my second game of the day, and earlier on I had Romania v Israel, and it was extremely windy, and both those teams dealt much better than I could have anticipated with it. I do think these teams are going to find it a bit tricky in that many of them haven't played in the wind yet so far. It has been relatively good conditions so far at most of the recent tournaments, and I think that some of even our monitors nearly blown off the table here. But yeah, I think these teams, they do have plenty of experience in their teams, but sometimes it just doesn't matter when it's this windy. And I think it's a big advantage if the wind continues like this. Whichever team obviously starts upwind is going to be having an uphill battle from the very start. There will be drops in the wind. It's been on and off all day, so it's not going to be decided by the wind. I think based on results so far, maybe you would imagine the French team looks stronger. They are the current world champions, so perhaps the wind might actually favour the Czechs in this game, in the sense that if there is a bit of a, maybe not mismatch wouldn't be the right word for these teams, but if one team has a bit of an advantage, the wind sometimes can be a nice equaliser. But these are very tough conditions, and it mightn't look that bad at home, or if you've watched some of the previous games maybe, but it's tough in this one.
Well, you can see there our bracket on your screen. Of course, this is the just mostly tussling at the top. Both the French and the Italians are undefeated alongside the Czechs. So a win here would set up that bye round into the semi-finals. The top two finishers in our women's pool of 7 teams total will advance straight to the top 2 positions, and the rest will play the crossovers to see if they can make it to fight against the very tippy top. At the moment, though, it is still Great Britain winless, as well as the Germans, who are in contention for not having the opportunity to get to the very top of the standings later on this week.
Yeah, I think with that image on the screen there, that it's going to be very close to maybe how it finishes, in my opinion. Maybe you swap those top 2. That'd be my early predictions based on what I've seen so far. But again, still a bit to play for in this group, and it's hard to know what teams have, if some of them have maybe been holding some stuff back, in the sense that if you're here looking to win it anyway, or if your aim is just to make semi-finals, you don't need to show everything straight away. The only team eliminated after the pool play is whichever team comes bottom. So we don't know what every team has got in store for us, or if they've shown their full hand yet. And as the junior division gets more and more advanced in terms of experience and players getting to know each other, it obviously means coaches are capable of having players who are used to doing more types of things. So it's not a case of, oh, we only had time to work on one type of thing with this team and we have to use it straight away. It's very possible there's teams that might even have things planned that they haven't even shown in any of their games yet, because they just have so many things they can do and they don't actually need to practice it. Every game being streamed as well, so there's no games where you get to use your thing and hope it wasn't seen. If you're going practicing something, then you're going to hide it until the later stages. You need to have it prepared before you come here, because I believe every single game of this tournament has been streamed so far. Maybe some technical delays in 1 or 2 fields, but other than that, everything is there. So if you've played it, the other teams can scout you before it starts. So looking forward to this one. Looks like the Czechs are starting with the wind advantage, so I think if you're a neutral, you want a strong start from the Czechs. I haven't actually seen the French play yet, but that would be my guess.
Well, at the moment, the only thing that really separates these two teams on paper is the goal difference by virtue of goals conceded. At the moment, it is the French that have conceded 2 fewer, but both teams going to 15 in every single one of their matchups so far. Of course, we did have a little flirt as well with the overall kind of, top scorers and assisters within the women's division, as you get that little kind of, that's an East Block celebration in the centre of the Czech circle, the kind of, is it Lynx that's on their kit?
I think so, yeah. I don't know what the Czech for is. I don't want to butcher any attempts at my Czech words.
Well, no, you are looking to get your permanent residency, Doc, so we don't want them throwing you out of the country.
Yeah, I'm here just trying to, say, I'm supporting the unbiased support, So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this one anyway. It should be a good game. I do think there's in my opinion, there's a clear advantage with the French team, given that they won the World Championships last year and they have multiple players back from that team. But
they do, but they've lost quite a few of their upper echelons of talent. Of course, some of those young players actually graduating straight from the U20 World Division, and I mean, they did have a little brief stop-off last year in LA to win a World Championship on beach. But yeah, a couple of those big names just playing straight in Chengdu later on this month. So that coverage, of course, will be free to watch via the World Game Zone proprietary streaming service. I'm very excited to watch that. But they do have a couple of folks that have stayed on board, and of course they will have, a rising tide lifts all boats, they say.
As they say, yeah. So we'll see. Anyway, it's just for French Ultimate the last year, especially at the youth level, has just been. I don't know if they've when the last time they didn't win something in Europe was. Maybe last year, one of the divisions. I'm not sure if they won it, but I think they tend to make the final of every division.
Well, it is going to be the Czechs to start out on offense. We did get a look at their game against on our live stream yesterday. That one low taken away, great underneath defense being played. That's Anaël Beauvois. That's a Beauvais, sorry. So short field opportunity for the French. Get it moving quickly inside to hit the soft space, but that's going to hang on the breeze. An opportunity, but can't quite make the distance. Nice run down. And a big ripper off the arms of Shekova, one of three sisters on this Czech team. Veličková. And now Elena Shekova, one of the spirit captains. Everything looking very static, but just coming from the back in Jana Stolova. And that will be the first goal. A slightly dirty hold, but it'll do nonetheless, Doc.
Yeah, I think if you're a neutral or a Czech fan, you really don't want to see them getting broken up when on the first point. And France slightly overthrown one, Czech second time of asking, getting it done. Chekova with the hook, I think it was her sister maybe on the reception, and then the assist. So said yesterday, not often you get three members of the same family on the same team, and it's not a case in the Czech Republic where there just isn't enough players. It's just a good frisbee household, as we said yesterday. So shout out to maybe some family members at home watching on the stream. Maybe there's some here. It's not such a far job. It is the neighbouring country, although it did take the players from about 7 a.m. till about 3 p.m. to get here the other day. So as much as it's a bordering country, there is a bit of travel. But yeah, Czechs needed that one, and two good throws. Really nice hook downwind. People always think it's easier when you're playing downwind. It's easier to throw the disc far when you're playing downwind, but it's not so easy to throw completions downwind. And a couple of nice throws there, and it's good to see, because from my experience with Czech Ultimate, they always struggle in the wind and against zones, and so far they looked okay. So hopefully they can do the same both ways, and we could have a really good game here.
A decent distance on the upwind pull, but it's going to roll backwards, favour the French. They get it moving nice and swiftly. And a beautiful shot to the end zone, but who else but Delajalova underneath it.
I think if there was stats for blocks, she'd be at the top of the tournament if you included blocks after yesterday's game as well.
Yep, certainly someone who is no stranger to playing the deep. But a stumble for the Czechs, unable to convert that first opportunity. Klistova with a turn. So the Czech zone. Pops through. Oh, and the give go, but that spills out of the hands of Noémie Guibert-Cholet. Nice reaching high grab using the stature of Holička.
Yeah, uncontested foul there. I think as she was winding up, it hit the back of her teammate's head. I wasn't sure what happened, but it looked like a foul, uncontested.
Lead up line. Shekova pops through. Thinks about and sitting in that inside channel. And again, the Czechs slowing things down as they get to the end zone. Dolajalova. Oh, and that's just wide open up line. A little bit of a scramble to make the grab, but Zuzana Shekova puts that next one on the board, and it is a break for the Czechs, 2-0.
Yeah, great start by the Czechs. They're really impressed. I didn't recognize too many of the players on the line there. I'm not like super familiar with all the youth players in the Czech Republic, but I didn't see too many there that I've seen playing for years and years, so good to see that line's capable of scoring the upwind there. The wind not super strong in that point, so again, if you're a neutral or a Czech fan, this is exactly what you want to see, because I think you would expect the French team to be the more dominant team, but again, maybe it's just the case that we haven't seen the Czechs have to be pushed yet, so hard to know exactly what the peak of the Czech team is. I don't think they took part in Worlds last year, so it's been 2 years off for them, and good start so far. Don't think the French are going to be too worried about getting broken early in the game either. Again, plenty of experience on this team, so they're not going to worry about one break, but Czechs here now looking with a downwind to get that 2-break head start, and I'd say if you were trying to do a plus minus on this game beforehand, you might have said maybe 3 or 4 plus minus for France having the edge. That may be what I would have thought if you were trying to predict an outcome. So a break here, I think suddenly it's a game where I would say it could easily end up being the universe.
So the French goal is to start this one off, their first real challenge of the tournament, it would seem. But a throw straight into the jaws of the zone. Easy pickings indeed. Throw back to Jurakova. Just swinging and finding the opportunity, and once again they ask Elena Dolajalova to grab the goal, and she will do so. 3-0 for the Czech Republic.
Yeah, not really sure what's going on with France at the moment. Just a misthrow there, not even a misthrow. Just basically, you think just threw it straight to the Czech player who might have been just run into the space, and then Czech's 1 or 2 passes pop it to the front of the end zone. I think France just needs to kind of maybe your coach needs to call a timeout. I'm not even sure a timeout. I think it just might take a couple of words to say, hey, wake up, and you're still asleep. I believe it's first game for both of these teams today, so France maybe they just had a bit of a late night last night, so who knows, but definitely not very typical turnovers. They've just gifted this to the Czechs. It hasn't even been, I wouldn't even say there's been that much pressure yet. Just France just need to have a little word with themselves, I think, because as much as I expect them to be the team that probably ends up winning this, it's like you can't just give teams 2-3 points leads at the start and always come back. So
well, I'd say it is a very different looking team to the gold medal winning World Championship last time out in Birmingham at the world stage. But I mean, at the moment you've got a lot of repeat performers from the Czech side, who of course got the bronze medal back in Padova in 2023. So plenty of experience on both sides, but like you say, it's not showing at all. I mean, Venuta Bushkova did not have to do anything at all, but just catch the disc thrown directly to her. And a short field opportunity made the most of. Of course, that comeback against the German women for the Czech Republic yesterday was largely, I would say, soldiered on by the fact that the Czech Open team turned up not only with all of their sideline, making a lot of noise with the rattles and such, but also they brought along all of the other coaches.
Yeah, it's just like it's a nice small venue. It's not very hard to find where you need to be next. So, Czech's a good nation for getting behind each other. They're only here in the men's and the women's, in the open and the women's divisions. So, again, when they're not playing, you're going to hear them on the sideline, especially the guys with their, I'm not sure what you call those rattle things, but they're loud. And some.
That looked very on the line to me. I don't know about you, Doc.
I was too busy distracted by the rattles. And
well, the volunteers on the sideline are pointing inbounds. I don't know if they've got any skin in the game here.
Yeah, the Czech coach is very determined to just have his players just not. He doesn't seem too like he wants to give his opinion, so maybe they'll want a replay. I don't know what we'll see here.
Get another look. I think that's on the line from the look of the replay.
Hey, you are volunteer. You have no rights for the calling.
I mean, it didn't look great to me in live play. I mean, we're sort of slightly lower than, but it's going to be a contested out of bounds on the field by the looks of it. Players still very much in control of the game. The Czech sideline now asking if they can watch our replay.
I mean, we know the answer, don't we? So
We do know the answer, but
I mean, it's clearly. Yeah, but well, anyway, we'll see what happens. Czechs have had a good start, so maybe the French needed that little bit of luck. And again, it is up to the players. Just because we happen to have it here, it would have been up to them to figure it out otherwise. So.
Well, the Czech coaching set not best pleased that the volunteers were sort of imposing themselves.
And I think the worst part is it's fine to impose yourselves, but you need to be right. So it's a bit unfortunate that they maybe got around that game. I only looked at the replay once and it seemed out to me, so I don't know, maybe I saw it incorrectly, but
That's all right. There's no such thing as objective truth anyway, Doc. It's
yeah,
fine.
I'm usually of the opinion if you're not on the field, just unless you're certain of what you're saying, there's no point contributing any opinion, especially if it's in support of your own team, because if there's enough people on your team who are going to back your own team anyways. I usually only try and give my opinion if I think my team was wrong.
Well, in any case, that is a spill in the centre pocket and another wide open opportunity. The entirety of the Czech sideline sprinting along to provide support and getting ready to celebrate perhaps another goal. Another break here would be a really big statement for the Czech team, who have had struggles across the course of this tournament.
And it's good to see it as well, that the Czechs following. You see a lot of the French players stand still, and a lot of teams don't realise.
Well, that's taken away. Hojka with that inside channel, a little bit too obvious, perhaps.
Yeah, a lot of teams don't follow the sideline play like they should. I always say if your sideline wants to help you get a turnover, your sideline can help you get a turnover, but they have to be there to talk to the players. So.
Indeed, and with the wind conditions, it's going to make communication ever more tricky.
But at least that earlier OB call was cancelled out by 2 turnovers since, so it's not going to be a decisive factor towards the end of this game anyway.
Great high grab for Lucien Guibon. But French unable to make too much headway. Still just playing in this same section. Oh, and that's just, was that good enough? Oh my goodness, well that's why you play Macline, folks. A very bizarro function indeed.
Looked like she had given up, and then I was like, oh, and then suddenly she's just saying it's up and nobody says anything. So.
Well, we didn't have the best view from our commentary position.
Must have landed on her, I'm not sure, because it looked like there was no, it didn't even look like she was trying to catch it in the end.
That's nice punctuation in the middle, but unfortunately it slips away from Guibert Cholet. Not having the best day at the office is Noemi this morning, or this afternoon I should say. That one taken away though, excellent aggressive positioning from Lisa Le Chanoine.
Yeah, and the French are just really, really struggling, and I'm kind of surprised because I don't necessarily think the Czech zone is that strong at the moment. They're doing a lot of things that I'm seeing gaps in, and French are just seem to be struggling against it a little bit. So I think they're just struggling with their throws and catches in general.
And there is another struggle. That one bobbles off their hands. It's becoming a little bit crazy here.
Yeah, I think.
But Jansson's just going to put it towards the deep space to try and give themselves a bit more room to play defense.
I'm not sure how familiar you might be with the French players, but do you know are you familiar with too many of them? I can't claim to say that I know too much about these French players, but would you say that perhaps this O-line is maybe their like full-on O-line? It's just very strange to me to see this, but again, I'm not familiar with the players, so I don't want to say that maybe they're not at their full O-line or they're just sleepy, but it's very surprising to see them with some of these turnovers.
Kolichka throws into duress. The wind really playing a factor at the moment in this game. Some of these ones into the breeze just being turned over.
I think the Czechs will be very frustrated with themselves if they don't score this one after how many chances they had. I thought they were going to get very few chances for breaks in this game, and they have a chance here to go 4-0 up. They have the disc in front of the end zone, and I feel if they're lucky they might get one more chance, but I feel like France just have to score eventually. There's such a strong wind behind them.
Well, Lacrosière this time tries to hit Janssens, but these passes just are not sticking. So another turnover. I believe that's going to be a foul. Agathe Crozat seems pretty sure she got a firm hand on it.
I think it might have been a foot, I'm not sure, but uncontested. It's always a tough one when you're on the first. I can't claim to say I get too many flip blocks or hand blocks in my career. I usually just make sure I don't get broken, but it's a tough one when you feel like your hand is where the person wanted to throw it, or your foot is where you knew they wanted to throw it. Maybe because you're too close it causes some contact. But
well, of course, until the disc is released, it is still formally part of the player's body, like an extension. Bit like a tent on the side of a caravan. But that one is going nowhere. Dolajalova, of course, this long point now starting to draw forth. Even she can't make that one work, but the French squander the opportunity too. So if I'm right by counting, that's 7 turnovers for the French so far, 6 for the Czechs, and at long last we get a timeout call.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was a game we did yesterday with Germany and the Czechs, and we thought there was maybe, what was it, eight turns total or 8 turns each, was it? And these teams might have already passed that record in this 1 point alone. So let's just say it's not that these teams aren't quality teams. We've seen both these teams with great results recently. It's just one of those points. That's the only way I can sum it up. It's kind of hard to explain what I'm seeing. The wind is tricky, but I think most of these players will be kind of wondering. I can only imagine what the coaches are thinking right now.
Well, I think, to be honest, if I was running this French women's team, I'd just be like, look, we're getting blocks, we're getting turnovers, because they actually are. I think a lot of times it's the French either throwing it too deep, trying to get too adventurous, and it ending up being snaffled up by Dolajalova. But a lot of them are just drops. It's really strange because they are getting blocks, they are, putting pressure on the Czechs. It's just a case of how can they mentally reset and focus here.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's kind of just it's just like when you click your finger, suddenly it gets fixed. If the coaches know their players well enough, it'll be very easy for them to fix this. And as you said, I think the turnovers by the Czechs are going to be a little harder to fix because I think their turnovers are more just slightly more difficult, whereas the French, it's just like, I guess I would just say beginner level mistakes, kind of like that you'd be frustrated with, like maybe what you're used to seeing. You wouldn't even see some of these turns 10 years ago in the juniors division, and these players are. It's hard to even describe how far ahead the players on the field are now compared to what you would have seen in this division, in the juniors division, like 10 years ago. It was like we've got people here with probably multiple medals at the European level, and I have to be a bit harsher on the French here because they are playing downwind O here. So if I'm a Czech coach here, the only thing I'm frustrated with is that we haven't actually scored yet. From a D-line perspective, you must be delighted because the other team looks like they can't complete a pass, and I don't think it's the most aggressive zone. And I guess maybe the Czech coach knows better than I do here. I thought you'd want to put a bit more pressure on, but if the French are just going to keep throwing the disc away or throwing it to you, then why bother playing a more aggressive zone and encouraging them to hook it when maybe the passive zone encourages them to pass it around a bit more. But Czechs here now with a chance to. This has been a long point. The first 3 points have been very quick, but this one's been a while. Czechs have another chance here, but I imagine this will be potentially their last chance to get a break in this area of the field. I think French offense is going to have it figured out a bit more after that timeout.
Čechova getting us started, back to Hliška. Dishes off, and then everyone seems to run away, which puts the pressure on Čechova considerably. They do manage to flutter it through, but that one just a swing and a miss. Doležalova probably could have put a hand out to try and make the Flubberguts catch. Of course, that being a fun little game you can play with 2 or 3 pals where you just try and throw swirly, weird stuff with a disc to each other to improve those catching skills. That one low, though, nicely found through. And Janssen, one of the captains of this French team. That one low, but very well held onto by Gibbon. Then goes back to Janssens. And that's a nice find. And this time they are able to, at long last, end the drought. Noémie Guibert-Cholet, well, that one, she makes count.
Yeah, I didn't think the Czechs were going to be getting the disc back there again. And one word for the Czechs now is it's been a while since your O-line's been out there. And obviously it's good that maybe the French O-line is a little bit more tired after that, but I wouldn't say it was a very tiring point. But sometimes you can get points like that where if that was a match D point and it was that long, I would think it's a massive success for the Czechs in the terms that their D-line was getting so many turns and the French O-line might be tired. But I think coming out of that point, you're probably going to think that's just a missed opportunity for the Czechs, and the French aren't going to have too many more points like that. And now it's a case of the best thing the Czechs could do is try and just get a quick O-line score just to settle their O-line in, because the O-line hasn't been on for a while now. And very interesting start to the game anyway, so I'm unsure what to make of it. It's a bit of a crazy point.
Well, I mean, that's what you get at juniors, though, that, you know, it's kind of really interesting because sometimes you see juniors teams in their preparation tournaments kind of snagging a win off a really experienced seniors side, and it's just kind of a lot of teams at this level, they've been playing for a while, they've got more experience than they used to, but they still, juniors tend to be very vibesy. You know, it's that kind of, you know, what you get with an older athlete perhaps is just more life experience, perhaps a little bit more mental resilience and emotional control. But of course, that's one of the reasons we love to do youth championships, because you get really interesting things occur every so often. So our first look at the Czech O-line since the first point of the game. Are they coming out cold at the moment? It's just playing against the French zone. Čechova across through, quickly swinging to the far sideline. Nicely held from Rushka. We're seeing a full stretch. Some athletes that didn't get too much play time against the Germans on our previous showcase game. Coming back in now to join the party is Stolova. Just giving every other. Jalushka again. Stolova sends back. Because of course plenty of the young Czechs love to play that East Block give and go style, but that one slips behind the back of Stolova and gives an opportunity for the French at their first break. So perhaps a little bit of a loaded line for the French. Baron looking for an opportunity, can't squeeze the up line. puts the around. Herrad out into acreage. Oh, that's a great scoop layout from Troyot, wearing the Palliver cowboy hat from the championships, of course, where the French women absolutely demoralised the Italians in their final. Good one. Oh, that one just a little bit too much to be asked of Herrad. So one turnover apiece, but that's a big block.
Yeah, and I think she would want that one back. Chekova, one of the stronger throwers in this team. She's capable of just throwing that as a flick or a more outside-in backhand and getting it around the defenders. There's two defenders standing in front of her with her hands up, and maybe a less experienced player on the team might understand that term, but I think she knows herself that she could have easily gotten that around those defenders with another throw. But good work by the French to know what they're doing on defense to put two players in front of her.
Okay, Noon with a great rundown and then receives the pass again. Puts that one into space well. Marshall by Herrad. Is to try and grind things back, but a pick call.
This offense looking much better by the French. It makes me wonder, again, I'm not familiar with their players, but potentially maybe they're just doing upwind, downwind lines, and potentially maybe this is more like their O-line, because they look very confident on the disc.
You're so polite, Doc. I reckon you should just make spurious comments.
I figured we gave enough criticism on the last point.
I mean, it would be a very smart strategy if the coaches are indeed putting some extra handling sets on the upwind points. It's certainly something that has been a strategy of success for teams I've played on the past, but we've got another stoppage that will maybe roll back the tape on that pass.
Yeah, Katrina Rachka there coming off one of the very few people who's played with both 3SB and East Block. So she plays her European Frisbee with East Block now, and still plays her club with 3SB. So
they're just returning from Myers Troyot, of course, one of the world champions from last season. Now, Herrad with the inside, and that's a great follow-up move. That's a break back for the French, 3-2.
yeah, and you really didn't want to see that as if you're a Czech supporter. I think the last point they had so many chances to score the upwind, and you could see there how easily that French team was able to play offense upwind. And again, if the downwind points that they had problems with, if the downwind point they had problems with previously got fixed so quickly after the timeout, you have to start thinking that the French are maybe starting to figure out how to play in these conditions, and the Czechs are going to have to take a bit more care with the disc now and try and get one of those upwinds, because it's not going to be easy. And again, I do think the Czechs need to kind of keep a bit of a lead in this game early if they want to get the job done. I will say, looking at the results so far, I was also a bit surprised that I thought coming into the tournament maybe that there'd be a bit more of that there would be a gap between these teams, because there's so much experience on this Czech team, and it was more the fact that the French team had won Worlds last year. So as much as I'm saying I favour the French to win this game, there's an incredible amount of experience on this Czech team, and if I would have thought they were maybe a team that could, if there was a team going to be a team that could maybe take this gold medal against this French team, I would have thought coming into the tournament that the Czechs would have been more likely than the Italians. And the only reason I maybe have the Italians ahead of them now potentially is just because of that one game I did with the Italian team, where I think their O-line turned over maybe once in the entire game, and that's just, it doesn't matter what level you're playing at, to only have one or two turns by your O-line is pretty insane.
Shalushka with the French once again unfurling the zone to try and cause issue. Shakova Hopping back. But everyone clustering through inwards. Now Stolova. I'll take that back. That's Holička. Hudova. Pops back to Čechova. The French really pinning the Czechs to the sideline. And quick adjustments from the cup. They're not really looking to try and push it out, but that's a good little block, getting the hand of the cookie jar and taking the disc away from Čechova. Now, Janssens starts us off. Maillard. Nice high double-handed grab for Mu. Oh, but Laure is going to send it a little bit too far. Vespini can't hold on. Big block from Jalushka. Oh, sorry, I'll take that back. That was on offense. There's so many turnovers, it's hard to keep track at points as to who is doing what. That's a big reaching find, but a little bit too hot and heavy. Čechova with that low pass. But another turnover, very close to their own territory. Looking for the quick pickup and dish. Now Maillard, big fakes and then finds the bread box of La Rivière. And that will do to put us back on serve, 3 apiece.
Yeah, I know. In the point a couple of minutes ago, we had the French team just giving the disc away, and the Czechs returning the favour here. I don't think there was any turnover there that they couldn't have avoided. A short one here on the near sideline where they were just trying to throw like 5 one less than a metre passes to each other in a tight little space. And I understand the idea to try and keep it moving, but when you're just going to rush those throws in for such a tiny reward, it's not really worth it. And then just 2 throws, or one just drop, and then that last one there just kind of a missed throw, trying to swing the disc to the far side of the field and just throws it straight into the French defender. So again, kind of worrying signs here for the Czechs. They're capable of not having had any of those turnovers, but the French showing that they're not going to keep giving them the disc back, even though there was a couple of turns by both sides there.
It does feel very familiar to that kind of small ball East Bloc style that we see a lot. That, you know, as you say, they're really trying to move the disc quickly, push through from the back with your legs when you're facing against a zone. But I think one of the things that French zone was doing very effectively was keeping them pinned to the sideline by denying that secondary shot. It would be nice to see, I know obviously it's a breezy day, but if they're shooting upwind again, you can't help but feel the Czechs going to have a little bit more love if they are a little bit more adventurous and try and swing the disc laterally to the other side, because they have the throws to do it. We've seen the quality of them in previous matches here at this championship. But the French will be delighted that they've taken the eraser out and managed to level things up here after giving the disc away so many times in the opening possessions.
Yeah, I imagine any time a team is playing upwind and they're on this near sideline to us, we're just going to see teams turning over. I'm just imagining if I was there now, I wouldn't be able to throw a hammer cross field in this wind. Like it's very difficult wind to throw in now, and any upfield throws like around the sides of the zones, they're all really difficult. You really want to be able to just throw good flat throws here. So if you're a smart defense, you're just going to absolutely cram the handler area when the disc is on this sideline, if the other team's playing upwind, because there's no real options then other than something a bit crazy.
Well, that's a good recatch for Klára Čechová, wearing the number 8. The Czech coaches just saying, keep that deep away and let us have some action on the shoulders of this zone. They could split them, but that one is going to just fall out of the paws of Jalushka. A nice idea, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think if you're the Czechs here, they're capable of playing without it, but the way they're playing at the moment, they're really struggling. It might not be such a bad idea to just hit that deep shot and just try and see if you win a 50-50 and then play defense, because Otherwise, you're just giving France some short field opportunities like that one where they just overthrew one receiver and then another one had a chance and that just didn't reach her either. So I think when you're kind of struggling a small bit, the best thing you can do is just at least make it hard for the other team. So I'd like to at least see the Czechs get the disc away from their end zone here.
Well, focusing back on our action, that one escapes our view a little bit. And just a little hit block there, nothing too fancy. Gaëtan Lepesnik-Kamina.
Yeah, a bit underthrown by Chekova there again. One of the stronger throwers on this team. I think she just wanted to get the hook off after the last one where it was blocked. So again, I like the idea, and if there's a player on the team who's capable of throwing that pass for a score, I think she's one of them. So just unfortunate it didn't come out the way she would have wanted there.
Well, back in live action, Lepesnik-Kamina looking for an option on the underneath. Does take on with an aggressive around fake, which opens up that inside channel. You'll have to see it, but that is a great bit of denial. Jana Stolova with the interruption. You can see some of the vim and vigour has disappeared. Sort of walking frisbee. I mean, we're going to need that division for us in the booth at some point. Oh, and that's a big ripper from Shakova. It's going to sit too high though and sail out of bounds, surely. Yes, a great read from Stolova, but she just runs out of room.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of throw she wanted to throw on the last one, and I imagine if there's a certain Czech person I know at home watching this game, and this is exactly how she would be saying they need to play this game right now. So currently minding the little baby, so if you're listening, hello Aaron, we have to say hello to the family members, you know. Otherwise I realised I was 3 streams in yesterday without saying hello. So
of course, and yeah, big shout out to indeed Rahel Toshnerova, a real legend of Czech Ultimate, and of course of live streams as well.
Former under-20s coach, I believe she was coaching the team a couple of years ago.
A big part of 3SB as well.
And an absolute savage when it comes to the commentary. So if you think we're being savages here, you should hear the way we talk when we're at home watching teams, especially people we know. We're not usually too harsh on people we don't know, but if we've any connection to them, they're getting
rinsed.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, to be honest, Doc, I have to say, maybe that's what we really need, is the after dark commentary stream. I'm sure people would pay an extra couple euro to get all the saucy info from that.
Yeah. It's more the swear words are included. Not we never actually say anything bad about the players. More just the WTF was that. But I'm not going to go too harsh criticising players in these conditions as well. So, like I said a while ago, if I'm in this position here, I'm happy if I can get a throw close to the halfway line if I'm this French player right now. So, any throws are getting off here, and the wind has picked up now. So, conditions are very difficult, and I think I was lucky in the first game today that both teams handled it so well. I was amazed that they were able to do so well. But there's no shame in any turnovers in this point right now. So.
Lepesnik-Kamina does go for a adventurous shot to try and gain yardage.
That was a big throw. Now if we see a player throw it further upwind in these conditions than that, I would be surprised. So for anyone at home watching, that's probably the best throw at this moment in this wind.
Well, I think it's interesting. I think if you can actually get a lot of momentum, if you get a nice upline find and have that kind of that extra little bit of twist and torsion to apply to the disc, you could probably get a little bit extra yardage. It is not the most inhuman wind you've ever seen for a game of Ultimate, but I think it's more the fact that the teams are both in a bit of scramble mode. We've had a really topsy-turvy start to the game, lots of turnovers, lots of drops, so that doesn't really bode well for that kind of liquide and mental fortitude for executing exceptional throws.
Yeah, and the wind also isn't even consistent. Like right now as we're here, it's died down a bit, and it could be windy on the other side, so that's another thing you have to be aware of. Sometimes it's just the wind dies down and you might just realise you have an opportunity, and
well, there is an opportunity.
This one's going to be in bounds anyway.
It is indeed, and that's a great read on the end of it as well. Amelie Vashova.
There we go. She's got a trademark celebration now, so good to see it. You could see there how the wind is a factor. The deep defender just was like looking for the disc and then realizing, oh no, I couldn't see where it went. So here she made sure we had to highlight it when she was coming in for a big flip. So as much as you'll see athletic players at this tournament, you won't see too many more athletic celebrations, I would imagine.
Well, both sides still heavier on the turnovers than I think they'd like. We haven't seen a clean score since that second break on the bounce for the Czechs.
And again, I think with both these teams, they would feel very confident that they're going to be two teams that are not going to. Well, I think already it's confirmed that neither of them can be eliminated from the pool play. So, to some extent, I think if maybe the Czechs would like if they could maybe avoid France potentially in a semi. But other than that, I don't think too many of these teams really care who they will have to play if they make it to the semi-finals. Obviously, winning the group though means you go straight there, so you don't have to win that game to get there. But as two of the top teams here, it's possible, especially with the coaching staff they have. Like I know the Czech coaches are very knowledgeable and they're with this team a long time, and I know the French coaches, they've about 500 coaching staff here at this tournament, so there's a good chance they maybe aren't showing everything yet. But in these win conditions, I think you kind of there's only so much you can do that wouldn't be considered silly. So I think we won't really get to learn too much about how these teams might play against each other on a calmer day, based on the fact that they're heavily going to be adjusting for the wind, because obviously these coaching staffs know what's needed in the conditions.
Well, there is a bit of a risky biscuit, just a drop, the hands going the wrong way for Gibbon, but that one is going to go the right way for the French fans. Maillard to pick up, sends that one arcing. I like that for a lateral move for them, sailing on the breeze. Now Maillard pops it through again. This is a much more cohesive performance. Me. Gibbon popping back. Not having to work too hard with the legs for Spini now. Trying to go for that give and go love. A nice slicer from Maillard. This is some of the more petite names from that World campaign, showing just what they've learned now that they're able to settle themselves into this. Lormo. Feisty fake from Maillard. Keeping things flowing and moving. Not getting too much in terms of penetration through that front set of the Czech zone. It could be cheeky and put something over the top, but of course that big frame of Dolajalova sitting right in the center of things in the end zone. But they do find that little squeak through. Looks to be Gibbon for the goal, and France with a clean hold.
Yeah, nice throw there at the end. It looked really nice from this angle here, the way it caught the wind and curved it around to that player. So, yeah, you said clean hold. We haven't seen too many of those. I'm not sure how many of them we will see. And just talking about the experience of these teams, I did a quick addition there on our notes, and it's of the players who said how long they're playing for the French team. There's about 130 years of experience in their team, and with the Czechs, of those that have done it, they've got about 70 years. So you could say the average French player here playing probably about twice as long in terms of when they said they first started playing as the Czech players. So definitely the advantage and maybe experience in these conditions, you would think, is with the French. And like I said, you don't really get that much wind in the Czech Republic, but I think they've done okay with it so far in terms of some of their offensive plays, and sometimes they just had to resort to just shooting it deep with the downwinds, which makes sense, because I think if you're talking about just a pure skill thing, that there just seems to be a bit more experience on the French side. So the Czechs sometimes are just going to have to be more willing to just take the kind of, how would I call it, the higher risk, higher reward option maybe on the downwind, but I don't even know if I'd say it's higher risk. It's probably higher risk trying to dump and swing in your own half near the end zone here playing downwind. So it's low risk, high reward. Is that really a thing? And to me, that's what just hooking it deep might be for a couple of the checkpoints. They have started doing it, and again, they're certainly a team that's capable of playing without doing that as well. But it just happens to be against this French team. It might be the best option for them right now. The wind has picked up again now, so I'd be very surprised to see any dump swings here until they get into the other half.
Well, picking it up is Jalushka. And the emphatic signalling from the Czech coaching set seems to be they want to see their team stretch it towards the deep space. There is plenty of opportunity. In fact, all alone was Vashova, but they choose something small and get turned over with an opportunity now for France. No one walking towards the disc for a little while. It's a little bit cheeky. Good one, getting us started. Nice find across for Caron. French continuing to put very strong handlers on this upwind. Guénoun. Back to Caron. Good containment again from that zone defense, making things extra tricky. That's a little cheeky find. Chabot across to Guénoun, sorry. Has the upline over the hip, little stumble, but holds on. Does Lucie Caron and punches in for the score in the back corner. And that will be the first lead of the game for the French. A break to take us to 5-4.
Yeah, really confident offense out of them there once they got the disc as well. And there's not much more they can do there from a defensive point of view. They get the disc back, they work it, and they look very confident there. And it does make me think does increase my likelihood of thinking that there's a potentially more slightly upwind downwind approach in this game from them. Just with the Czechs, I think even on that point it didn't necessarily look like they had one of their, again, I'm not super familiar with all their players, but it didn't really look like they had any of their players who are known as players who will put it deep. So perhaps the Czechs happy to just say, we're going to just try and work on what we will want to do later in the tournament, regardless if it's upwind or downwind. And if it doesn't work, then we know maybe it won't work later. So rather than just resorting to maybe shooting it deep, like I think they would maybe need to do more of if this was a knockout game, perhaps they're just happy to say, hey, look, why not use this to at least practice the offense and get good at what we're going to count on to make it to the finals of this tournament later. So again, hard to know exactly the approaches of the teams in this game. But one thing they're both going to be doing is wanting to take a lot out of this, and obviously they both would like to win the game, but do you sacrifice a chance of doing better later in the tournament in order to maybe win a game now but still risk losing it?
You mean to tell me, Doc, that you didn't use your soon-to-be resident status in the Czech Republic to go and get the inside track for the coaches to see exactly how they'd be using this game? I mean, I'm with you. I think this one, it really is. We get another look at that brilliant score celebration. Bit of flips for you. I think this one, it is, both teams have yet to concede a game. That just difference on the score sheet between the goals conceded by the Czechs versus the French. I mean, both teams had a really interesting start. We saw some different lines out of the Czech side that we saw in their battle against the Germans yesterday, which included a lot of grit and determination for that comeback. So I think this one, it is, it's, as you say, maybe is indeed different to how you play a knockout game, as we get some flyover from a trio of helicopters.
Yes.
First time we've seen those this week.
Is it your first time? I feel like they've been adding one every time. I saw maybe it's what day is this? Day 3 of the tournament technically.
It must be this time slot. I've not worked this time slot yet.
Yeah, they go back and forth every day. I've seen them every day. So I happen to be, even though I've been having some time luckily we only have to walk like 100 meters to our accommodation from here, so I can't say I've been on the field every minute of every day so far, but I seem to be seeing those helicopters every time. So 3 of them today.
They're looking for you, Doc. That's what it
It's
is.
very possible. I don't know, maybe those days are behind me. Those days are behind me.
He's a good boy now.
Adult now, yeah.
But at the moment, to give you the score updates from elsewhere on the pitches, of course, you can get all of the information by going to the tournament website. Just search for EYUC 2025. But in the women's division, Belgium with an emphatic lead, 8-4, taking half over Austria. And Germany women currently looking for their first victory of the tournament, 8-6 over Great Britain. Of course, all these games are available to watch on the Veo cameras. And in 2 mixed power pool stages, Belgium 8-3 over Slovakia, and Israel trailing by 1 against Slovenia coming into the second half. But this one, the lowest scoring affair at the moment.
Yeah, and just for relevance in this division, the Germany GB game, I believe if GB lose that, they wouldn't be out, but they'd have to win their game against Austria, otherwise they would be out. So
indeed, that is all about staying away from that bottom spot in our women's division. These 2 teams have secured themselves an opportunity to get into semi-finals. It's just about whether or not it's going to be on a bye round or if they're going to have to play a crossover against some of their former opponents.
there's just no way the Czechs are scoring in this win right now. If they score in this, it's insane.
Well, there's a lack of focus for you. Very unfortunate. Shekova with the easy turnover and a quick pounce from the French for sure. Johnson's seeking a reset, of course, trying to avoid throw directly into the breeze if he can. La Rivière now keeps it low. Oh, a little bit of a slip, but just about makes it through. Doesn't like the first option, and then a little corkscrew on the inside. Lisa Le Chanoine with the goal.
Yeah, I didn't mean it in a bad way in the sense that they were never scoring there. It was just the wind just picked up incredibly there, and I was thinking if they can just get out of here and maybe get it halfway up and get another turn, but it just picked up, and just the drop in the end zone is more just because of the wind. As in, it's so hard to focus on those catches when you don't know if the disc is going to drop up or not. And then again, French confident on the disc and able to score with the short field turn. And not sure if it's half or if that's a timeout, but looks more like potentially half.
I think so. Half? I think we do have a timed half. Of course, these games are played to 90 minutes in total. So I believe at 50 minutes into the game, you do get that timed half. So we'll double check with our timekeepers.
Yeah, and Czechs are going to have to come out if it is. I believe it would be probably half now. Czechs are going to have to come out and play another upwind. So tough last 5 minutes for the Czechs, and another tough 5 minutes ahead after this timeout. Or I believe it's probably half, given the way they're sitting down in the middle of the field. But I guess we'll be back in the second half.
Turning off the sound. It was just like every time I heard Steph's voice, and I was just like, this is too much. Because I can't hear Doc so well in the headset.
So you have low motive.
We have these things.
Yeah, but I'm gonna play with the knobs at some point. I should probably do that now.
Okay.
What?
What?
I used to be an audio tech.
About the game. You can't be talking like that, juniors. Don't you know we're all immature?
Oh yeah, and also you've said it 6 times now, I think, that I don't know these players very well. Again, like it's no one cares, Doc. No one cares.
I know, but if I'm gonna start talking about O's or D lines, I'm like, I don't really know. Like I could say, this looks like maybe up to down. It's like I have no idea what the French person. At least with the Czechs, I'm like, okay, this is clearly a power line. I don't know. I guess
Well,
yeah.
but it's at the beginning of the game, right? Like you don't know who anyone is necessarily, but you'll get to know them over the course of the game. Like for example, and like you can see a little bit in their player surveys, like the fact that you know which ones are the medalists from before.
A small bit of it is that also I don't want parents at home thinking, why is he talking so much about the Czech players and he's not mentioning our chance? Like, I live there, I know them, I don't know the Czech players.
But like at the moment, like Miley Johnson's is getting quite a lot of touches and actually having a pretty good game. I mean, obviously Guy Berchelet was having a horrible game at the beginning. She's treated it up. So it's just getting a sense of people.
Yeah, I just don't. It's more like even in the open division, like club, I don't know players. I just know like this team is good and that guy that handles is good. I'm really bad with the names, so it's like. It's kind of like, I want to talk about the thing, but I don't know the player.
Oh, I mean, I like, this is like, some of these names are giving me, like, reminding me.
I'm going to leave it on because this is how we hear if he tells us back stuff.
Okay, commentators, please put yourself on again. Thank you, Anna.
Second half about to get underway in this tussle between the Czech Republic and France in the women's division at the European Youth Ultimate Championships 2025. If you're joining us, I'm going to get Doc to give you a little recap of what happened in the first half, because it shouldn't be 6-4 at half. Of course, we've ended up with a time cap.
Yeah, so it started off with the Czechs just having the dream start. They scored their offense and then they managed to score 2 breaks. Then we had a point that probably took about 15 minutes maybe where Czechs were playing upwind and they just couldn't convert the breaks. I would imagine there was, I think you were tracking the turns there, and there was maybe about 8 turnovers each in that, more than in some of the games these teams had yesterday in total. So then the French called the timeout, got the score, and it's been 6-1 since then. I believe it's been 6-1 since then. So we got the timed half. It's very windy here. It's up and down, and it's going to be a bit of a tough ask for the Czechs now. So only when I say it now I realize 6-1 run for France is a very worrying sign for the Czechs after a very positive start. But we're going to get back underway here again. So let's see if they can get it going.
So plenty of people on the sidelines sat in the just early afternoon sun. Local time coming up to 20-2. Both these teams, of course, having fared pretty well so far in this championship. So the first loss at the moment, it looks like it will be the Czech Republic. Of course, that very strange start, but things about to get underway. And it will be the French starting on offense to start the second stanza. So, quick movement backwards. The Czechs still sticking with the zone look. Troyot just hanging out on that far side, keeping that middle busy. But a lot of folks clustered around the disc still. Nice quick movement and then sent straight back from Baron. Now Delpech. Nice high one, well kept by Genun. Troyot. That one nice catch from Genun. Does have a little bit of activity, just slowly inching it down the far side. No one there for the swing after the reception for Baron. Looking for that give go, but again the cup adjusting nicely to take those away. This time they do have an opportunity to swing, but just straight up do not look at it. Let's get Genun instead. That's a nice forehand to slice around the mark. The French keeping the disc moving, but not always looking around them at the full set of options. Just going to try and grind it, and they do indeed find the pass over the tape for the clean hold to start the second half.
Yeah, like we said, we're now on a 7-1 run for France, and it's tough because the gap between these teams, I don't think it's actually as would be a 7-1 difference, but sometimes in these win conditions, just a small bit of an edge, or not a small bit of edge. I think there is a clear advantage in terms of how well the French are dealing with the wind after they called that timeout from that 1 point that took forever. They do have a bit of a clear advantage in the wind, and then that advantage just gets like it grows even more when the wind is like this if you're a team that's capable of it. So I thought maybe at the start of the game that it might suit the Czechs more, that it might become a bit more of a messy game, but the French are just dealing so much better with it, especially after that timeout. So good job by the coaches to whatever they said to their team to get them to refocus, because if you watch the first 3 points of the game, you would think it's not even the same player that's been the same players that have been playing since. And then for the Czechs, I guess they just gotta. It's a tough spot to be in, the Czechs, because you don't want to be going on a 7-1 run down and just feeling like, God, how are we going to beat this team later in the tournament? I guess they're not thinking about that necessarily right now, but it's just a bit demoralising for them. So I think what the best thing the coach can do now is just make sure they remember, hey, look, this game doesn't define our tournament. This is the game to learn, hey, where do we need to be by the end of the week? So as much as the 7-1 run is frustrating for me watching as a Czech supporter, it's you've got to be very happy if you're a French supporter watching this, because 7-1 in these conditions against the Czechs is pretty insane, and it's kind of clear why some of these players were able to beat USA last year.
Yeah, this is more like it, that is for sure. The Czechs, again, they got plenty of height for both their throwers and their receivers. There's a massive opportunity if they want to try and hit that over the top. And they do indeed go. That one a little bit too deep, though, and taken away by the waiting deep defense of La Rivière. The French shooting against the breeze. It's got a nice edge on it, but it's taken away. To say one thing we learned yesterday is the Czechs are fantastic on deeper, higher throws. They have exceptional reads as well as that shoulder stature. Things slowing down a little. Shakova through. Rashka. Things becoming a little bit more compressed, and I like the defense being played there. Trying to reach all the way into the back pocket. A big smack, and there is contact with the disc. Great work from Klečková, but not to be.
Yeah, good no call as well. I know she realised she was the one running in there trying to get it, realising the defender had position. So good attempt, actually. I think she maybe got it almost got a hand to the second effort, and also by the follow-up player. But this time the French deep in the zone getting the job done, and not looking at it like they're chasing shadows. Got a good read on the disc and good block. And if the French can score this upwind here, I'd be, again, very impressed. The wind has picked up again now. This is as tough as it's been for any teams all day. So I said a while ago, I thought the Czechs had no chance. See if the French can do it.
That's very low for Gibbon, but makes the best of it. Of course, in wind conditions, you have to keep your eyes on the prize and be ready to adjust as the disc gets just messed with by the breeze. Quick clapping and moving. French doing a much better job upwind of trying to keep the disc swinging laterally. See if they can find their way through, and of course positioned right behind the majority of the pack. I believe that's Laure Mo. Now finds an assignment defensively. Keeping things alive at the deflection. Great work, run through D from Klečková. Now just patiently waiting on the goal line, Zhacheva, but there is a spin and a spill. And the French will shoot upwind once more, but first they'll swing it in their own territory. Of course, a Callahan would be quite the injection of energy, but it's just going to be a swing to nowhere, a little bit too much loft.
Yeah, it's I'm kind of seeing something off the screen here with the deep in the Czech zone. She's following the French player to the other end of the field in the brick mark, and I think it's something I get frustrated with every time I see it when I'm seeing deeps playing in the zone and they're guarding areas that basically there's very few players in Europe who could get the disc to that part of the field. So perhaps a bit lucky for the Czechs to be able to get the turn there, because the zone wasn't really as we're waiting for them to bring the disc back in. It's taken quite a while. She was, like I said, she was so deep in the zone that she decided to walk up and take about 6 hours to get the disc. She had to walk the length of the field, and so it's not a delay of game, she's just walking slowly to the disc.
Well, the Czechs look to swing it aggressively first into the breeze. Shalushka calling for the disc space that's needed. A little run over the tape for Shekova. And a quick one around the back of the mark. An easy goal in the end for Magdalena Schleshkova.
Yeah, much needed score for the Czechs there now, and stop the rot, as we call it. 7-2 the last 9 points, and I can't remember when they last scored. So they needed that one. They got the turn again. It was always going to be very hard for the French to score into that wind. It did die down a little bit at the start of the play when they were moving the disc across the side of the field. It wasn't as insane as the wind I called impossible for the Czechs to score into a while ago. And at this very moment, the wind it's up and down. It's not as extreme as it was a while ago. So I do think there's going to be chances for the Czechs to score upwind if the French turn. But I think it's going to be very hard to do it from maybe inside their own brick mark in one possession. So I think any time the Czechs are going to get breaks here, they're going to need some short field turns off the French, or else multiple turnovers by the French in a single point. And the French haven't really looked like doing that lately. But again, plenty of time left in the game and plenty of time left in the tournament. So let's see if they come out with different types of defenses now, because I think their zone has been very passive, and I don't think the French are going to just give them the disc against that anymore. I know they did in the last one, but that was upwind. They need to now get a turn by the French playing downwind, which is looking less and less likely the more the French get reps against the same Czech zone over and over.
Well, 2/3 of the game expiring on the clock of our 90-minute time slot. It's going to be a relatively low-scoring affair, and I think that will continue to be the case as the rest of this game continues. So 7-5 indeed, the score for the French. 2 points and 2 breaks clear of their opponents. Because of course it was high confidence for the Czechs, and they were able to punch in those clean breaks to start the game off the errors that the French were showing. Perhaps coming into this one a little bit less hot and fiery than they'd like to be. Again, everything ending up quite squeezed laterally, and there's a squeeze there as Lucie Caron, so she's not happy with the level of contact. Bit of translation being added by Lali Maillard. You can see here everyone's sort of drifting into that almost vertical shape. And there is a big reach over on the shoulder. You can see that from the replay. Heavy contact. 2 players though jostling for the same spot. Get back underway. That one's going to have to be tracked down. They have the legs to do it and plenty of space. They're being pushed ever closer to their defending end zone are the French. Nice find through and a great grab and scramble from Troyot. Caron. Oh no, that's not Caron. That's Pezinek coming out, puts it into the end zone, but that is an amazing catch. I think maybe a ground strip on the end of it. How unfortunate for Lucie Caron under double coverage.
She initially caught it in bounds. It was great work. Yeah, it was great footwork. She just unable to hold on to it, but deep shot goes up.
And sails out of bounds. The Czechs trying to go for a sneaky one to Doležalova, but it just doesn't stay in the pitch. So one turnover apiece as the tussle continues here in the women's pools.
Yeah, I did say I thought this is how the Czechs might get their turn. I didn't think they'd do it in one pass, but short field turnover here gives them a chance now.
Well, the French still keeping it relatively smooth, but might run out of bounds. Indeed, they do. So this is a massive moment for the Czech D-line. A short field, the breeze in their faces, but they made their lives a little bit easier as the French throw it away.
Yeah, they're not going to get many better chances with this than Chikova here, one of the players who's got strong throws. So if someone's going to get it straight to the end zone with various throws here, she's one of them who can do it. So
a little bit of a stop-start. Doležalova, of course, a big target, but doesn't have the ability to make the play. Good close of the window by Maëlle Joriot, because of course that body being there doesn't allow her to make the layout, but the French turn it over in pretty much exactly the same spot. We're getting back to the harem scarum affair that we started this game with, Doc.
yeah, a bit of I think maybe a bit of a chuckle out of the player who do that turnover. So good to see keeping the positive vibes in knowing, okay, maybe I just got a little overexcited there and threw that one away, and maybe, but we're going to get another chance. It's like 0.4 all over again.
It certainly is. Well, that's really good. Unfortunately, doesn't quite make the magic happen.
Yeah.
A little bit too much edge on that forehand, but that had promise.
Yeah, Chekova, one of the players capable of throwing it. I think she's capable of doing a little bit better, but definitely one of the players you want to see with the disc throwing it in that spot. If someone's going to get it to the receiver, it's going to be her. And she did get it to the receiver, it's just a bit too hard to hold on to.
Well, it's DIY paper stats, but I think that's 8 turnovers total at this point. But a catch block.
Thought it was a Callahan for a moment.
Oh, could have been, but not quite. About a metre shy. Holichka avoiding the stall out. Doležalova with the head on a swivel. Everything all suddenly very quiet for the Czechs. They're going to have to go for some swings. I mean, I'd love a big adventurous backhand to Doležalova, and they're going to feed the beast. There's a great defensive block underneath it, though. So France's O-line playing yet more recovery D.
Happy to work it as well. I'm surprised they haven't just sent it deep yet, but I think that's the one advantage of the way the Czechs do this zone. When you have someone standing so deep, even the players like this don't necessarily want to just hook it deep when they see the player.
Doležalova is a bit of a cheat code playing that deep position. Oh, but that's a great bit of defense flying through to smack it away. Chapova. A slow start for the Czechs, and then Shekova picks up. She's going to go for goal, but that one is straight into the hands of the defender, who's going to rip it straight away. Pezinek coming out has shown us some great fortitude on the throws, and that one was pretty close to Ahoua getting an easy goal.
Yeah, but again, Czechs are just, that might as well be a score when you're if you're playing against the Czechs now, because you've given them multiple chances in front of the end zone to score and they haven't, and now you've got the disc down the entire field, and I don't see them working the disc up the full field in one possession, so they're going to want to just get the disc as far upfield here as they can. But the wind maybe died down a little bit, so maybe they have a slightly better chance now. But
well, we do love a bit of commentator's curse when it comes to getting spice in the game, but it is the turnover. Klara Chekova unable to connect. So pinned to the far sideline are the French. Nice one to break the mark with the inside. And swinging all the way across the deck. That's pretty great footwork from Le Pezinec Caminard. She'll receive the disc once again in that 74. Well handled by Chabot. High one. Oh, and just the catch and flop. Now, the Czech sideline not happy with it, but the French pretty clear that they thought that one was inbounds. I mean, difficult to see from our spot.
yeah, not entirely sure, but that throws a lot harder than it looks to get that to come back in and to put it around the defender. So whatever the outcome of this, that's not an easy throw to get into that space.
Well, let's get another look at it. I mean, it was definitely a valid catch, and you'd have to think, Doc, that when you're got that much time to wait for the disc to try and be in your zone of ability, that you'd have a look at the feet. Oh, maybe that right foot's on the tape.
Yeah, I wouldn't be confident enough to tell them and come and look at the footage, because I'm not sure if we actually see the exact moments where, oh, maybe here we do. Yeah, so I'm looking at it here. I would say maybe out of bounds, but I wouldn't be 100% sure on that one look, so I don't...
I mean, it was a cool catch. I think probably a fair outcome would just be to contest it and send it back.
It seemed more likely that it was out, but I'm not confident enough to say, come look at our video footage, that you'll solve it straight away. So the one a while ago, I think was pretty clear it was out. So we'll leave the players figure this one out unless they want to come and look. But
and of course, that is now part of the rule set officially. You are able to use the media, whether that's photography or video.
Yeah, we'll save it for finals day. Today we can just say, look, we're not sure. Let's play frisbee how it's meant to be, and save the video stuff for when you're deciding what color medal you're getting.
I think that's probably the quote there, Doc. The frisbee how it's meant to be, because of course the overwhelming majority of games you're not going to have live streams, at least at this current day and age. But that one is a spoil. Troyot unable to get the hand all the way to the turf. They're going to go for a risky shot. Troyot with the bobble. But Hlička had given up a little bit too soon to make the garbage collection. So another long drawn-out point. 6 turnovers apiece.
Yeah, but I think Czech's happy to at least just have the disc up here now. It's, like I said, not going to very hard to do it in one possession. So a hook turnover and then the other team working it like this is not a bad outcome, especially given where the disc was about 60 seconds ago.
Oh, there's a little bit of jostle underneath it. You could see the drive of Anaëlle Beauvais. So Beauvais, she was trying to get herself underneath that one, knew it was going to be a long shot. But it does get the disc a little bit out of danger for the French defence. This, of course, is their offensive point that they're just trying to hang on to so they can maintain the lead. High one, taken away. Nice defense from Troyot. And that's some good confidence. The wind dying down a little, making the backwards passes a touch easier. Just under 20 minutes left. Oh, but a scramble again. Beauvais being asked a lot of to try and make these catches.
Yeah, you can see the Czechs here, no rush to get it going again. It's just like that early point in the game. This is just one of those points where it's just going to be a bit of a struggle.
Well, a long drawn out one. Dishing and swishing. one high, sends over the shoulder. Droyer tracks it down, but unfortunately, again, the French women finding it difficult to notch this one on the board with a downwind.
Yeah, and given how that point earlier in the game went, I think overall this game, if you maybe take away maybe the 2 or 3 worst points of the game, these teams have done pretty well in these conditions, because it's not fun to play out there in these conditions. If the wind was reduced a bit, I think people would be much more impressed by what they're seeing at home. But obviously we're here, we understand how windy it is, and we know how difficult it can be to play in these conditions.
That's a great attempt though, and there's going to be a good battle at the act. Dolijalova unable to do it. I thought Halichka had closed that channel out and was going to take that high disc. Great execution on the throw.
Yeah, and if they'd cut that, they had 3v1. So huge defense there by the French player to make sure that one wasn't a score.
I'm wondering if I've missed one, because my tally still had it at 7-5, this to take it to 8, but both the website and our scoreboard have got an extra on the tally for the French.
Yeah, I initially thought it was Czech Republic round 4 as well, so we both think one team has got an extra score added to them, so at least if we're both correct, they cancel each other out. But this here, excellent opportunity now. This is one throw territory for the Czechs. They won't get too many of these, like we've said. So,
well, I think maybe we'll check in with our volunteer scorekeepers, because of course they are the ultimate checkers of the scores. As the Czechs throw it away again, really struggling to punch in the goal. So many opportunities. There'll be great grab. And a timeout at long last being called. About time too. This is a real marathon of a point. So what news from yonder scoreboard, Doc?
The scoreboard would suggest that you're correct.
Excellent.
That
That's
everyone else
always
is
nice.
wrong. So we believe the score is 7-5. So
Get another look at some of the replays of this point. Of course, that was very early stages. It feels almost like a week ago, that foul call.
was that in this point?
I'm not even sure at this point, Doc. But that was, I know, I think we're getting some of the highlight reels in general of this game so far. That's probably one of the catches of the tournament. A shame that it was ground stripped on the back end of it.
Yeah, I think maybe these are all from this point. I'm not sure. It has been a long point, and we've said there hasn't been too many of them. So, again, challenging conditions, and again, these are two of the 3 or 4 best teams at this tournament, I would say. So, if you think sometimes they're struggling, I assure you this is what's being seen on every field at the event right now.
So I can tell you why it is the fact that we have this 8-5 scoreboard difference versus our it's nice to know that the volunteer stats keepers are on the same page as I am, but
As long as they're correct.
it's because we had that out of bounds call, and I think we're going to get exactly that replay now. So that was called a goal initially, so maybe somewhere along the lines that's been added as an extra goal for the French. Of course, it looked awesome, but we were unclear whether that right foot was on the line, and of course on the line in ultimate is out of bounds.
Yeah. And perhaps maybe earlier when the Czech coach was wondering why the volunteer was staying in, perhaps they were thinking that the line could be in, because I always say the easiest rule to remember: if it's on the line, it's always whatever the bad thing is. That's the default. If it's on the end zone line, it's not a goal. If it's on the sideline, it's out of bounds.
Well, it's one of the really interesting things of knowing that on the line is out of bounds and not within the playing field proper, is actually when bringing the disc back into play after it's gone out of a sideline. A lot of players will, especially around the end zone, they will move the cone and then set their pivot point on the cone, which actually puts yourself at a disadvantage, because you can set up inside the pitch up to about a metre. Of course, obviously you don't want to take the mickey, not abuse the side given to you, but setting up your pivot on the line is out of bounds and also is to your own disadvantage.
Up to a metre? Is that? I've seen some people take close to 2 meters, but I wasn't aware of that. Now you've educated me that I can come in a little bit off it. I just thought you had to just be as close to the line as was reasonable. I understand with the cone, maybe you could get an extra step, but I didn't realize you could take up to a metre. I thought that's just people being crafty, putting their non-pivot foot on the line and then stepping out for the pivot. But French back in play here now, so let's see how they do after that timeout. After the last one, they figured it out and scored straight away. But
Well, that's a great block high in the bucket.
she doesn't want to pick it up now after that one.
No, that's going to leave a mark, isn't it?
Yeah. Although she's going to pick it up anyway. We haven't seen any hammers in this game yet.
Well, Shakova looking very risky there. I thought that was just going to be a one-shot goal. Now that would be quite the momentum stealer. Of course, the Czechs currently trailing by 2 points to their French counterparts. Started the game with that 3-0 lead. Seems a very long time ago indeed. Nice hold from Kleshcheva. Hops back to Chekova. And there's the hammer. It's going to squirrel away and be absolutely no man's land. There was not a solitary white shirt where that one landed. And the French now looking to get a rapid counter-attack. They get a little bit stifled in centre pitch. 2 players going up line, but big collision and a foul call. I'm not sure I agree with that one. It seemed like Dolajalova did make a great effort to avoid contact.
Could
but
potentially be maybe a dangerous play call, but I don't think the French player knew where the Czech player was, so it's if there's contact, there's contact, but if the Czech player is sure she was avoiding the contact, which might have been the case because
she does slow down and kind of almost ends up still there.
potentially if just a foul, maybe not dangerous. It did look like there could be a collision at first, but just on the previous one, it was good to see the overheads because I think the Czechs they've tried everything else, and that's why I was saying I haven't seen a hammer. I actually thought hammer might, in that situation from Chekova, I want to again keep saying it, but there's only so many players that are going to be able to make the big throws into this win, and she's one of them. So first she chose the scooper, and then maybe with the confidence of the scooper she went for the hammer after. It was unfortunate for her that it came down so poorly in the wind, but it's a good sign that when you have players at least with the confidence to take those throws on and that they're not shying away and scared of the wind. And again, hard to know exactly here. I imagine it's not a dangerous play call because the French player didn't actually see where she was. It looked like it could be dangerous, but there was essentially no context, so it's just a case of whether the hand got hit, I think.
It's one of those things where actually if it was that Dolajalova was running in at an angle, sort of a counter to, I agree with the concept of that being a dangerous play. I know the Singaporean Federation had an entire kind of campaign for a while because they had a very, very unfortunate injury off a play very similar to this. I think because Dolajalova does kind of stop and is actively trying to avoid contact, but it's a responsibility from both players' sides, and I think the only thing for me is that perhaps Caron could have been a little bit more mindful in the same way when you're setting off towards a deep space, when you're putting, giving your thrower a target to hit with lots of yardage, you're looking over your shoulder to where the thrower is to see if they're going to take that shot or if you need to come back, that kind of communication. And I think it's a similar vibe when you're gunning up line. It's a case of, yes, knowing where the disc is, but actually at the higher levels of ultimate, in terms of making sure you're avoiding contact as well as an athlete, because there's 13 other players on the pitch at once. I think it's also requiring you to look over your shoulder and have a little bit of an awareness when you're running down, because that was a long time that she was chasing that disc.
Especially against the zones, because there's a deep player that's kind of in that area standing somewhere. It's one of those. I don't think it was dangerous. I don't think the play call was dangerous play because the French player didn't actually know where the player was. I think it was just a case of a bit of contact, but it did take a bit long. So I imagine that means the Czech players probably feel pretty strongly that maybe it should be a turnover. There hasn't been too many long discussions in this game, so
no, just long points.
Yeah.
But they're going to go through and try and find, but unfortunately it's a little bit too far for Maëlle Troyot.
I believe after every long discussion about whether something should be a turnover or not, the disc has ended up being turned over anyway. So if this ends up going to universe, we can say that no game was decided by a call, despite a couple of very close ones when it comes to in or out of bounds calls. So.
Well, I did slightly lose count when we were trying to figure out the exact score, Doc, with our confusion on the boards, but I believe we're now in double-digit turnover territory. That's the hammer.
That's the one she wanted a few minutes ago near the end zone. That's what I was saying. I thought she had those throws. So
she does. There was just no one on the back end of it the previous time. Trying to go for a little bit of point and shoot. There's the blade to match. Czechs. The wind has died down significantly, so those overheads are wide open. You can see the hands on the far side saying, I'm available, but they're going to go for a sky ball deep shot. Jalova goes up well with great space, but doesn't connect.
Yeah, I think she got a bit frustrated from the previous one where she didn't go in and take position, and this time she takes it, and they're going to get another chance. But yeah, I like that option that, like you said, the wind has died down a bit.
And that's going to get very, very close to a big break here for the Czechs. Can they find the connection? Oh my goodness, they can indeed! After such a long stand, they finally get the D on the board. Well, they talk about momentum stealing points. Dark 7-6 now. The gap closes up and the Czechs are back on the charge.
If they do end up going on to win this game, this will be the point that turned the game. I feel like France had to score that one. They gave so many opportunities to the Czechs, and even here on this very last throw, I thought for sure at this exact moment I was like, score right now. I'm like, no, and then it looked like she missed it, because from where I was, it looked like the French player was right there, and it looked like it caused a mismatch. And again, I don't mind leaving out my bias here. It's not the knockout rounds, but good to see the Czechs coming back, because like I said, there was a 7-1 run a while ago, and obviously I like close games, but I also don't want to see one team just absolutely getting destroyed on the stream. So since the 7-1 run, actually, that would mean that that feels like a long time ago since I said that. And if it was 7-1, that means the French haven't scored in quite a while. So I'm not sure how long it is since France have actually scored, but maybe it was just that one long point. But
well, they had that first point to take the second half. Sorry, so the French started out on offense in the second half. I mean, it's sort of a. I totally understand what you're saying, the 7-1 point. Because of course, the game started off with that 3-0 lead for the Czech women, and then it was 3 on the bounce to respond to level us all up, and then sort of a little bit of trading, those last 2 breaks to end the first half for the French, scoring their offense, and then since then, it's been just that absolute marathon long point. So we have now officially reached our score clock. We'll double check with the scorekeepers and timekeepers as to whether or not the cap has yet been applied. But another break here, and of course the downwind defense for the Czechs, well, that could bring us to a universe point situation. So finish this one and add 1. So if the French can hold their upwind offense, it will be a game to 9. But if it goes the way of the wind, it's going to be universe point, which is what this game is. Very strange indeed, but it would be an absolutely huge result for the Czechs. And a block from the jaws of the zone. There's going to be another foul call. Again, it's contact with Julie Holichka.
But whatever way this game ends, a great comeback by the Czechs, and during the course of this game, some absolutely, I would say the team who's looked like they've played the best has been France in terms of their ability to deal with these conditions. So both these teams showing why they're favourites to make the final, in the sense France looking so good in these conditions, just sticking to their game the whole time, and then the Czechs just basically just able to keep themselves in the game despite the conditions and despite maybe struggling to throw in the wind a bit more.
Well, Zalushka running and gunning along with Shekova, just nibbling up the yards. Again, a little bit of walking frisbee against the French zone. A relatively static mark on the feet. Not being as pumpy and pouncy to stop those. But the Czechs having to go for negative yardage. They're going to go for the end zone, and it will be too far, trying to hit that back cone, but good coverage from the French defence.
Felt like 1/3 of the players on the field were in that back corner when I stood up to see who was there.
Well, including, of course, the athletes that are about to go to force on this pitch in front of us in the next round. Of course, this game was delayed by 5 minutes, so the schedule may get pushed forward. Mayal, beautiful curvature on that blade, but well held, good read on the far sideline. Now they find some space through.
Always good when you got that backup receiver.
Yes, indeed. While the French have been backing each other up, it's not been a perfect performance as my chair decides to collapse. Maillard through. This is actually probably some of the best zone offense we've seen the French women play. If they can continue to keep the collections and connections. Maillard puts that one out in front. Oh, that is a beautiful way to take it to a game to 9.
Yeah, and again, like I was just saying before this point, that point highlights how good the French are there, that they were able to score that. That was some of the toughest win. I don't think it was the toughest in this game so far, but that was a really well executed offense. And again, that shows why I thought maybe that if there was a team that had a chance of running away with this, or a clear favourite in the tournament, that it's the French. And that point there just highlights it again. People at home maybe don't appreciate how good that was, but if you've watched the entire game, or maybe it was the last point, if you watch the last point, you'll appreciate this point a lot more.
Well, especially because, I mean, this is the first point back after that absolute inhuman mincemeat making, you know, double digit for both sides turnover point. So to be able to come out and respond and hold your nerve, of course, the Czechs would have loved another break on the bounce using the wind at their backs. And now that advantage will go to the French to finish this one out with a break.
Yeah, and again, hard to know if this was. I'm a bit unsure. Like, obviously, it's not over yet, but I'm a bit unsure if which team will come out of this game happier at the end. Obviously, whichever team wins will come out happier. But in the sense of where they think what they were expecting come into this game, I think obviously maybe I've said it so many times, I think maybe the French would be the team that would have been expected to come out in this, but the Czechs with their comebacks, the Czechs showing that when the weather is difficult, that they have a plan B. We know they can play in the calm weather as well, and then the French just showing that, hey, it doesn't matter what the conditions are, we have our style of play and that works. So both teams can take a lot of positives away from this, and there's obviously a couple of negatives, such as one or two of those very long points that seemed to be when it was the Czech offense or Czech on defense, which is maybe a positive for them, but a lot of positives for both teams.
Well, when things become grindy, it really plays into the hands of the Czechs as they manage to escape Callahan County. It's breezy, but it is indeed a warm day here in Slovakia. Big block. Nice hands high from Le Chanoine. So calling for space. Maillard picks up. Didn't like the first look. I'm going to punch it a little bit too hard. Had separation, did Lipesnik, Kamina. Usually the one throwing the goals rather than receiving them.
Yeah, it feels like the wind's died down a little bit now, so definitely Czechs capable of working it up the field here, and they are in a tough position. But almost no wind, I feel, right now, so if there was a time to... I'm going to jinx it, of course, as the wind starts to pick up now, but all throws become options again now, I feel.
Well, it's very tight matching from the cup, perhaps getting into double teaming territory slightly, but the Czechs happy to play through it. That's better spacing now. Sending back Shekova with a nice find through. But good adjustment from that set of four, a slightly junky zone. Oh, but just a swing and a miss for Krzysztofa. Can the French take it on a break? Second opportunity beckons. Maillard with the around swing. That one's going to sail high. Can they snaffle it up? No, again, these backhands not sticking for the French. So a goal here to try and win their way back into this game. They've not been in the lead since that 3-0 run set them up for a beautiful start. Dolajalova pops back and then tries to tempt a throw directly into the face of the wind, but again they throw into the face of the front set. Not quite in. And that will be the game for France. They managed to turn the fates in their favour And it will be a 9-7 victory over the Czech women, which will surely see them with that bye into semi-finals.
Yeah, great performance there by French team overall, and Czech shouldn't feel too bad about this one. They know they had opportunities in this game to potentially change the fortune of the game and maybe take it closer than it ended up being in the end. And they did have a comeback. They took the lead, and then France went on a big run, and I was a bit worried for the Czechs, but they came back into it. And both these teams, very high chance they'll end up meeting again. So having this footage to look at and a couple more games to figure some out, and then you throw in the Belgian games and the Italian games into the mix. It's very interesting. Going to be a very interesting finish to this tournament, and lots to play for. And don't be surprised if there's some upsets, as this game here was very interesting, and I suggest that both these teams are capable of being upset by other teams.
Well, that will wrap us up for our women's game here on Field 2. But don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be switching over to the Open Division Pool A action for you. Lithuania versus Austria about to get underway. You can see the warming up on the pitch. For myself, Hannah Pendlebury, for John Doherty, we'll see you for the next one here at EYUC.
From a workshop in Bordeaux to Ultimate Fields worldwide, Force Ultimate creates custom gear with care. Locally made, low impact, built to perform. No outsourcing, no shortcuts, every piece crafted in-house by skilled artisans. Built to withstand every dive and sprint, this gear is as tough as your game. Your sport, your team, your Force. Why choose Force? Exceptional quality, eco-friendly production, and every kit is designed with your team's identity in mind. Force Ultimate, built to perform, made to last. Gear up now at forceultimate.com.